Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to be back. We had a long holiday break. I hope yours were as wonderful as ours. Welcome to our 41st Salon, Giving and Receiving the Gifts of Love of the Maternal Gift Economy Breaking Through series, hosted by Genevieve, Vaughan, and the International Feminists for a Gift Economy. I'm Letitia Layson, your moderator. We are honored to have poet, priestess Annie Finch, and singer-composer Guadalupe Urbina with us today. Each of our speakers will have about 20 to 25 minutes, which will give us ample time at the end for questions, comments, and discussion. So let's begin. Our first presenter is Guadalupe Urbina. She is coming to us from Costa Rica. She's best known for her work as singer and composer, but is also a researcher of the oral tradition of her region and has ventured into painting, children's stories, and poetry as an extension of her musicality. She has published 4 books, performed on various stages in the 3 Americas, Europe, and Central America. She has recorded 10 albums, and her music appears on collections from various labels. So you can read the full bio of Guadalupe on our website. But without further ado, please, I would like to welcome Guadalupe.
Thank you very much, Letitia, for your welcome, and thank you everybody, for inviting me. When you asked me, when Genevieve asked you to talk about the gift of love and about the expression of love, giving and receiving love through art, I was shocked for a few seconds. Lovers, social and sexual exchanges, maternity, or seeking to be loved exclusively by someone have been the one in 1,000 ways in which I sought romantic fulfillment. Because I am a romantic person my whole life, how to continue being the romantic woman that I am without having pretensions or expectations? How can I be free and love and be loved and give and receive? How can I talk about this? That was my question. You know, like many other feminists, I have been decolonizing many phenomena in my life, among them the love. And I cannot say I've been fully succeeded, because removing the blindfold cost is not easy. The system itself puts it on you as you grow with thousands of messages. Putting on purple glasses means facing up to everything that has been taught and questioning it. And that is not easy. Despite the feminist glasses, including the ones Simone de Beauvoir gave to us, dreaming in a good couple relation, free and being loved and free, it was not so easy to avoid connecting with people, whether as a romantic partner, friendship, or in community relations from a patriarchal, macho, capitalist, heterosexual anchorage, and a lot of etc. And it is that romantic love from anywhere I see it, leave me full of frustrations. And I am not referring to the romantic love of a couple. I mean that we apply sometimes the motifs of romantic love to friendships, neighborhood, the workplace. I have to say that feminism has helped me a lot to seek healthier relationships. That was the moment when I tried to learn new things. That was the big challenge, to set limits on couples, friendships, and social exchanges where everything moves through control, toxic attitudes, my toxic attitudes, and insecurity. Feminism has been vital to this. Everybody said to me, oh, you have first to love yourself deeply. If you don't do that, you never can get to be loved. Okay, and I think, yes, self-esteem is very important, of course, But I no longer believe that I should love myself first to be well loved or well considered. Loving myself is a constant process. It is a living and paying attention to being well. It's to be wrong and rethink this or that exit that does not leave me marked with fire. And that is every day and with everybody around me. I don't do that alone. Because finally, I discovered that the generosity of people who love me, accept me, and accompany me is what allows me to be a human being in constant construction and deconstruction in the patriarchal system. Because really, I expect to be here working to create new paradigms that every day and little by little we are knitting, tempering, and strengthening together. So patience, compassion, generosity, it's what I'm looking for to feel me really loved. At the end of the times of my life, I know that I'm very young, but I mean, for me, life is a gift. And I discovered that a little bit later, not when I was very young. But I mean, life is a gift despite very hard experiences. And the greatest gifts that I have received is music, writing, painting. When I make art, I discovered that I must make an art of life. And I surrender uninhibited, and I dare to show my heart naked. And I move my emotions, and many times I move the emotions of the people who kindly listen to what I have to say, to dream, to protest, to invent. I discover art as a path that opens me to other people and that opens other people's hearts to me. I humbly recognize the need to be loved. Is something that I need to know that I am loved, that I have this necessity, and I'm grateful when I receive affection, joy, reflection, company. It's not easy, but singing, telling stories, painting, I feel that I transcend all the limits imposed by the predatory and castrating society that the patriarchy imposes on us. As time goes by, I try to be calmer and calmer and calmer. Even nostalgia is a kind of balm that carries the memories of a life that I have lived devoted to creativity. Because there is no greater love in my life than to communicate through art. Anything, nothing, nobody. That happened when I discovered that more than a profession or a job, art is a mission, a request from the soul, and everything else is subordinated to the need to connect with the universe through it. I want to share with you songs and especially my emotions, because one of the things that I try to deconstruct is that desire to ask for moderation. Everybody wants us moderated, control of emotions. I feel that the society, this paradigm wants us flat, like a highway through which military equipment, the exploitation of land assets, and human lives can roll without weighing us down. I want a calm lagoon, sound waves, strong waves, soft breezes, and hurricane winds. And that's what I have to say when you ask me to talk about what is love and the connection that I have with arts. I think that's what I can say. I mean, I have no more words about.
Would you like to introduce the first video?
Yeah, I wanted to ask your help to introduce a song that I want to share with you. And the name of this song is Canción Florecida. It's a blossom or flourish song. Tengo la piel florecida justamente en esas grietas, justamente en esas grietas que dejaron las heridas. Me brota una flor arrastrando a una muñeca que retorna del jardín. Este jardín es mi voz, la niña gutural que me brotó. Por donde la grosería quiso carcomer la piel, siempre el alma verdolagas, maíz, hierba buena y miel. Por donde la grosería quiso carcomer la piel, siempre el alma verdolagas, maíz, hierba buena y miel. Opa, ahí va, eso, ajá. Vengo de un lugar donde una vez la piedra fue canción, ceremonia sagrada de ayahuasca, viaje eterno al fondo de una hoja. ¡Ey! Hojarasca iluminada que le riman viento raudo a esa hierba. Hojarasca iluminada que le riman viento raudo a toda hierba. Y vengo de un lugar donde tu voz tan generosamente me bendice. Madre tierra como a vos, madre tierra como a vos. Allí donde me abrieron las heridas me brota una flor, y allí donde me abrieron las heridas me brota una flor. Por donde la grosería quiso carcomer la piel, siembra el alma verdolagas, maíz, hierba buena y miel. Por donde la grosería quiso carcomer la piel, siembra el alma verdolagas, maíz, hierba buena y miel. Opa. Vengo de un lugar donde una vez la piedra fue canción, ceremonia sagrada de 1000 plantas, viaje eterno al fondo de una hoja. Hojarasca iluminada que le riman viento raudo a esa hierba. Hojarasca iluminada que le riman viento raudo a toda hierba. Y vengo de un lugar donde tu voz tan generosamente me bendice. Madre tierra como a vos, madre tierra como a vos. Allí donde me abrieron las heridas me brota una flor, y allí donde me abrieron las heridas me brota una flor. Allí. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want just to read a little of the text that said, I have flower skin right in those cracks that left the bones. A flower sprouts in me, dragging a doll who returns from the garden. This garden is my voice, the guttural girl that sprouts from me, where the rudeness wanted to bite the skin, saw this old porcelain, corn, peppermint, and honey. I come from a place where once the stone was a song, sacred ayahuasca ceremony, eternal journey to the bottom of a leaf, lit litter that rhymes a sweet wind to that grass. I come from a place where your voice so generously blesses me, Mother Earth like you. There where my bones were opened, a flower sprouts. So I want to share another song that is called well, the name is it's a little song about when the leaves are falling down. Related with the I'm getting I can recognize that every year I feel that I'm getting older. Yeah, and I will share the song, and after maybe I can explain, because I prefer that you feel exactly what more the feelings and after the meaning. Thank you, Diane, for the next song.
Las hojas que se van secando se desprenden del árbol y dejan una estela por el aire por donde descienden los duendes que huelen a guayaba. polvo de hierbas en mi boca, fruta madura canción, regocijándome entera, mi siesta de emoción. Opa, que algazaras cuando se deslizan y van a parar justo a mis pies, y ya no puedo verles, se desarman y ruedan por la hierba, barro y miel, barro y miel, barro y miel, barro y miel, barro. Yup, yup, hey, hey. Ay, ay, ay. Las hojas que se van secando se desprenden del árbol y dejan una estela por el aire, por donde descienden los duendes que huelen a guayaba. Después de tanta ruta sin salida, se abrieron las corolas de mi flor y me pregunto qué he hecho para ¡epa! ¡Ey! Después de tanta ruta sin salida, se abrieron las corolas de mi flor y me pregunto qué he hecho para merecerme la esencia de la alpaca, la fuerza de la ruda y del chile picante su calor, que algazara cuando se desliza y van a parar justo a mis pies, y ya no puedo verles, se desarman y ruedan por la hierba, barro y miel, 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 pasará cuando se desliza y van a parar justo a mis pies. Y ya no puedo verles, y ya no puedo verles, se desarman y ruedan por la hierba barro, barro y miel, barro y miel, barro y miel, barro y miel. Y dejan una estela por el aire, por donde descienden los duendes que huelen a guayaba.
Well, thank you very much, Diane, for your help. Thank you, everybody. I just want to read a little of the text of the song. This is the leaves that are dry and fall off the tree, and leaves a trail through the air where the elves that smells like guava descend. The leaves that fly inside me, rivers of fresh blood are, a herbal powder in my mouth, ripe fruit, song rejoicing whole leap of excitement. What an uproar when they slide, and they will stop right at my feet, and I can no longer see them disarm, and they roll through the grass, mud and honey. The leaves that are drying, after so much dead end, the corollas of my flower opened, and I wondered that I have done to deserve myself the essence of basil, the strength of the rue, and from the spicy chili her heat. What an uproar when they slide, and they will stop right at my feet, and I can no longer see them disarm, and they roll through the grass, mud and honey. I'm not the best translator, but I just try to explain. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Guadalupe. That was absolutely beautiful. And I hope that Diane will be able to put up, we have the lyric of both songs that she'll be able to, Diane will be able to put up with our recording at our website. And I wanted you to just know that we've asked Guadalupe to sing us out. So this is not the last song that you'll hear. She's going to sing live for us when we close our session today. So Guadalupe, thank you so much. It was so beautiful to see your land and to listen to your voice and your composition. More words of love. This is going to be just so delicious. We have our next presenter is Annie Finch. Annie is an American poet who comes to us from Mexico today. She's a world traveler. She's an editor, a translator, a playwright, and a performer, and the editor of the first major anthology of literature about abortion. Her poetry is known for its often incantory use of rhythm, meter, and poetic form, and for its themes of feminism, witchcraft, goddesses, and earth-based spirituality. Her books include the poetry Witch Little Book of Spells, New and Selected Poems, the body of poetry, Essays on Women, and more. Without further ado, I would just like to invite Annie to speak for herself and share words of beauty and love with us today. Thank you, Annie, for joining us from Mexico.
Thank you so much, Leticia. Thank you, Jen, for all of this. Thank you, Guadalupe, for the amazing music. That was so beautiful. Such a gift, so inspiring. And my heart is so full. I'm so honored to be here today and delighted. And so there's a truck right outside in Mexico here in my little village. So I think they're going away now. But if you hear noise, it should end soon. And I am living in this little place that has no windows or screens on the coast of Mexico. This morning, my love and I awoke in our little corner of Mexico to the sound of waves crashing on the playa at the edge of the village, and the rhythmic cries of multiple birds, including some loud roosters, many loud roosters, with their I wrote this morning, so I'm just opening with something written this morning. I don't know if you can see my handwriting, but it's very fresh off the page, including the loud intermittent note crowing of the roosters. And they crow the same crow over and over and over, as you know if you've heard roosters. My love and I talked, and then we made love. And then something moving happened. I opened my heart to the sound of those birds. I heard all of their rhythms, their cooings and their calls, which I'd been hearing every morning that sounded maybe sometimes random or cacophonous. All of a sudden, I heard them all as part of a whole, as part like a symphony, a surging, repeating in rhythms of ecstasy. I was encompassed by birds' song, patterns of sound I had not heard before. They gave me permission, invited me in spirals of joy I had not felt before. Writing the story, I fall into rhythms of language, the rhythms of meter, sharing the gift I received in this way. Today, let me share about loving and gifting. It's not always an easy story. I was born in the New York area to a WASP family that had generations of traditions of patriarchy, of rape, of oppression, of women having no education, no money, no power. The patriarchal ravages go so deep in that Northern European culture. I saw my mother, a powerful, passionate woman, being held back, being confused by her own desires, by her own passions. And Guadalupe talked about this also, that so often we're told to keep our passions down, and women are told this. And so for me, the process of learning to give and receive love has been very much a process of unlearning. I had to unlearn so many of the things that I was taught as a child in the Christianized, capitalist, monotheistic, nationalistic, violent society. And I still haven't finished unlearning them. I want to start, the first poem I want to read is a very early poem I wrote when I was about 16. It's called Young Girl's Love Song. Because I do my work and think of love, it's true that all I care for is love's pleasure. Is this the woman you were thinking of? My simple life embroiders no rich glove to toss down at your feet amid your treasure, because I do my work and think of love. Is there no way to coax your eyes above these easy daily hopes, this hollow leisure? Is this the woman you were thinking of? I would have made a good fat mourning dove, eating a seed, cooing a natural measure, because I do my work and think of love. And yes, I know that even with your love, I'd hardly change the thoughts that I had measured. Is this the woman you were thinking of? Love trains and teaches my new mind to move with thoughts of you. And I think love is pleasure because I do my work and think of love. Is this the woman you were thinking of? When I hear that poem now, it strikes me as a very sad poem. I was a 16-year-old girl, and I was trying to learn how to think about love in a very sort of passive way, almost, it was my work, but I keep saying, is this the woman you were thinking of? Like, I'm only thinking about love, but is that really what my love would want? Like, is there a way I can be a strong woman and still fit and still find expression for my love? And I wasn't finding it. All I can ask for is a question. Is this the woman I want to be? Is this the woman you're thinking of? I recently taught a class about love sonnets. I sometimes teach online for Politics and Prose bookstore in Washington, D.C. And my students and I discussed many different love sonnets. And it was very interesting to read them carefully because it's such a stereotype, the love sonnet. We always think, oh, a love sonnet is a pure expression of love, right? Shakespeare, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Well, it starts out very nicely, but when you read the whole sonnet and you really look at it, Shakespeare ends up congratulating himself on what a good poet he is. It's as long as this lives and men can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. It ends up being really a love poem to himself. And the more you look at the famous love poems, so many of them, I'm accepting Neruda, whose love poems are gorgeous, but many of the ones that in the English language tradition we think of as love poems are actually not really love poems. They're not, with a notable exception, the love poems by women. Those are the real love poems. I look at Edna St. Vincent Millay. We read one of hers. It was one of my mother's favorite poems. I'm going to read you that one. I grew up on it. It's called Not in a Silver Casket. Not in a silver casket cool with pearls, or rich with red corundum or with blue, locked and the key withheld. As other girls have given their loves, I give my love to you. Not in a lover's knot, not in a ring worked in such fashion and the legend plain, semper fidelis, where a secret spring kennels a drop of mischief for the brain. Love in the open hand, nothing but that, ungemmed, unhidden, wishing not to hurt, as one should bring you cowslips in a hat flung from the hand, or apples in her skirt. I bring you, calling out as children do, look what I have, and these are all for you. So I told my students, this is a beautiful poem, right? So charming. As one should bring you cowslips in a hat or apples in her skirt, I bring you, calling out as children do, look what I have, and these are all for you. And it's so appropriate that it was my mother's favorite poem. As I said, she was a very passionate woman, and she loved love poems. She loved flirting. She was flirting till the day she died. And she was not entirely faithful to my father. She had a love affair that lasted for decades, mostly through letters with a man who lived across the ocean in Scotland. My father said, I don't want to hear about it. And so she said later that it was the only way she could stay with my father, who was a very patriarchal man, was through having this other relationship. But when I shared this love sonnet with my students, one of them said, it's interesting, she doesn't talk about fidelity in this sonnet. In fact, she almost makes fun of it. She says, I don't share it with a semper fidelis, meaning always faithful in Latin. She doesn't share her love in a casket that has semper fidelis carved on it. Instead, she's just sharing it openly in the moment, the way children say, look, these are all for you right now, but maybe not later. And that was the first thing my students noticed. They said, well, this is not a poem about fidelity. And I thought about it. I said, yeah, I guess it really isn't. In fact, it explicitly really isn't. And my mother wasn't really like that, you know? And so I've thought about this a lot. I've thought about love and women's passion and women's sexuality, which is so amazing. Freud called us polymorphously perverse. That we, I guess he said children were polymorphously perverse, but there's something in psychology about women also being much more free in their passion, in the way, in what they feel passion for, and in their, in terms of different kinds of people and all that. So I've thought a lot about, how can I, as a feminist and someone who believes in the gift economy, and I'm also married very lovingly for 37 years to the same man, but how can I fit myself into this establishment of marriage, monogamy, which, if you listen to Engels, the Marxist who I've just been rereading, he talks about monogamy as a patriarchal invention in order to keep track of who the fathers of the children were. So, it's very interesting to think about how we can move forward into a gift economy, into a feminist world, and honor our passions as women and give and receive love, and also be faithful and loving people, but without doing injustice to the power of our passion. So I think part of the issue is that many of us are wounded by patriarchy very directly. If we've been sexually abused or through molestation, through incest, it becomes a lot harder to sort out what the reality is of your real feelings. And here's another very early poem I'm going to share that I wrote a few months after I was molested by my uncle at the age of 12. I didn't realize how important what happened to me was. I didn't know that it was going to be still affecting me decades and decades later, that I would still be healing from it. I didn't think it was a big deal. And yet here's the poem that I wrote. It's about a tiger. I imagined myself spending the night with a tiger in a very erotic way. Night of tiger. He moved without his muscles. Then they fell in place under the poured-on skin where it poured off his stomach. Like this, I found him forest dark. He moved against me in that glade. I had never felt a tiger with the blood of beating animal dripping from his breath, the lumber and swing of his weight. There was the thin and poured-on skin where it dripped off his stomach, and secret teeth serving a pale tongue. He moved, there were no eyes. I no more than light, and all one night was movement without edges. So this is an incredibly, to me, it's an erotic poem. It's a passionate poem. Clearly, the being molested by my own uncle had awakened me erotically in some way. But I couldn't experience it directly. I experienced it through this, I'd seen a tiger, I think in the circus, and I had this incredible erotic response to this tiger and imagined him moving against me all night. And and the blood of the animal, well, the blood of the animal is the blood of myself in a way. So often for a woman under patriarchy, the only way we can experience our own sensuality and our own passion is as the victim or the object somehow of the male structure. So how do we get out of this? How can we move out of this and celebrate our own sensuality and our own capacity for love, which I feel is essential, because to me, love and sexuality are sacred, completely sacred. And by sexuality, I can mean an erotic response to the world, like in Audre Lorde's amazing essay, The Uses of the Erotic. You can have an erotic response to many, many things. So I'm not only talking about, human relationships, but how can we experience this fully and make it sacred? I want to just read here something by another writer, by a very skillful poet, Doreen Valiente, who is known, Doreen Valiente, Valiente. She's known as one of the mother of witchcraft, contemporary witchcraft. She was very closely associated with Gerald Gardner in the UK in the early 20th century. And she wrote The Charge of the Goddess, which you may have heard some of. It has that beautiful phrase in it, all acts of love and pleasure are her mysteries, talking about the goddess. Here's Doreen Valiente. I guess they're chopping down trees or something. I thought they were going to go away. I feel like I should move. Is it terrible? Yeah.
Annie, I can't hear it, so
Oh,
I think you're
good.
fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Leticia. Okay. So here's Doreen Valiente. She who is the beauty of the green earth and the white moon among the stars and the mystery of the waters and the desire of the heart of man calls unto thy soul. Arise and come unto her, for she is the soul of nature who gives life to the universe. From her all things proceed, and unto her all things must return. And before her face, beloved of gods and men, let thine innermost divine self be enfolded in the rapture of the infinite. Let her worship be within the heart, for behold, all acts of love and pleasure are her rituals. Let her worship be within the heart that rejoiceth, for all acts of love and pleasure are her rituals. And therefore let there be beauty and strength, power and compassion, honor and humility, mirth and reverence within you. For behold, she has been with thee from the beginning, and she is that which is attained at the end of desire. So for me, being on the path of feminist spirituality and women-centered spirituality, including witchcraft, I have found this message that all acts of love and pleasure are her rituals, that pleasure itself is sacred. And I actually now feel that it seems increasingly likely that sexuality, particularly female sexuality, may have been the origin of spiritual activity and the origin of religion. I mean, when you think about the flowers and the incense and the music and all the things we associate with religion and, you know, religious practice, they're all also associated with erotic connection. And the experience is so amazing of love connected with someone that you love, erotic love. And everyone seems to agree that it is even more intense for women than it is for men. And that I feel quite possible that that this is actually a spiritual seed for all of us. So when I was a young child, my father, the patriarch I mentioned, said to me, John Milton said in Paradise Lost, he quoted to me, I was about 10 years old. He said, he for God and she for God in him. He for God and she for God in him. That the woman, I guess this is a very conventional idea in monotheistic religion, that the man is close to God and the woman follows along and attains God through the man. And the more I think about it, as so many other things that come from the matriarchal time that have been corrupted and twisted into their opposite by patriarchy. So many of the legends of goddesses that turn into, you know, the Patricia Monahan's work on the sun goddess being turned into the moon, and the sun goddess becoming a male god, and all these things that get twisted around, and the names that used to be sacred that are now insults to women. And the more I think about it, I think that Milton may have just had it the opposite. That in fact, it might be more accurate to say she for the goddess and he for the goddess in her. And as we know, this wonderful hormone oxytocin is, you know, if you want a happy family, the woman has to be happy, right? And then the oxytocin spreads to everyone in the family. And if she's not, other people won't be. Same thing goes for love. So it's very important for women to know how to receive and give love. And the secret that I've found through my poetry, and I'll be reading a few poems to close in a moment, is rhythm and expectation and pattern. I was thinking about it this morning that when you erotically crave a loving touch or sensual touch, you don't just want it to happen once. You want it to repeat. You want whatever you want. It's the expectation. And then it's like the waves, right? The waves, they come back and they come back. It's like the bird song for me this morning when I was making love. The bird song, it was the rhythm of it, the repetition of it, the expectation of it, and the satisfaction of the expectation, which is also the rhythms of the seasons, the rhythms of, you know, everything. And I think maybe the rhythm of gifting as well, as opposed to the exchange. Instead, you have the freedom of repetition that is allowed to gather momentum and share itself in a sort of rhythmic fashion that the rhythm has to be self-initiated, or it isn't really rhythm, right? It can't be taken out. Rhythm has to come freely. And it's the combination, I think, of freedom and pattern that creates the magic of rhythm. That there is complete freedom, and yet we share in a way that is loving, consistent, that has a rhythm that can have an expectation and a satisfaction. And I feel this in poetry very much, not only in the process of hearing poems, but also in the process of writing poems or composing poems. I don't say write because poems often come to me as lines and words that just flow through me one after the next. And the expectation of a poem coming, when I can feel it coming, I open myself and I know, and it's the joy of the repetition that I expect. I expect, here's a line in that rhythm, and then I wait. Here's another line in that rhythm. Here's another line in that rhythm. And that's how it comes to me as a gift. And that is the gift that I pass on when I share my poems, is the gift of these various kinds of rhythms, but always expectation and satisfaction, not exact, but always with a little surprise, because that's the freedom too. And I feel that for us to receive love is very important to pay attention to the rhythms and how they come to us. As I was able to hear the bird song this morning, I didn't hear it as chaos anymore. Suddenly I felt it as a pattern, and I could receive it as a gift because I understood it as a pattern. And even going through life, when you understand the rhythm of that, there is a rhythm, you open yourself, you relax, you receive the gift, and you can pass that gift along. I was talking to my husband about this, and I said, what about when you smile at a stranger? That's only a one-time thing. But on the other hand, when you smile even at a person one time that you'll never see again, it's still part of a rhythm, isn't it? Because you've done it before and other people will do it to you, and you're still being part of a sort of a rhythmic dance. So here are a few poems I've written over the years of love, which I will close with. Love leaves the tides. Courtship is pulling with your full moon heart to bring out patterns, patterns dry, crisp tides that crescent up the beach past sifted sand as sunset comes. When all the shores are dark, night pulls with courtship's tides. Love leaves the tides aside to push on further up the sand, to change far pools, to ebb into the heart of earth and leave it salty, full, and dark. Two bodies balanced in mass and power move in a bed through the dark under the earliest human hour. A night rocks like an arc. They reach through the ceilings of the night, tall as animals. Through their valleys bends the light of their fertile hills. Two bodies breathe their close hellos through interlocking pores, while that hush of beating slows, held with many oars. Heart over heart, leg over leg, trading still breath until heart over heart and seed into egg, night holds two bodies still. And here's a Valentine. This is actually called Paravalentine. It's an unusual form. It doesn't always make sense, but you have to just enjoy the sound of it. Paravalentine. It's a paradel for Glenn. Come to me with your warning sounds of the tender seas. Come to me with your warning sounds of the tender seas. Move me the way the sea's warm sea will spend me. Move me the way the sea's warm sea will spend me. Move your sea worm, come to me. Will with me, Spend tender sounds warning me of the way of the seas, the seas. Tongues sharp as two wind-whipped trees will question. Tongues sharp as two wind-whipped trees will question. Skin or nerve waiting, and heart will answer. Skin or nerve waiting, and heart will answer. Question will answer two tongues and or will. Heart sharp as nerve trees waiting, skin whipped wind. Brim your simple hand over where the skin is. Brim your simple hand over where the skin is. Wish again whenever hair and breath come closer. Wish again whenever hair and breath come closer, closer again whenever brim where your skin is. Hair, wish, and breath over the simple hand come. Spend come warning me whenever simple sounds will move your question, answer your heart-sharp, tender, sea-warm will with me. Way of the seas, where skin-whipped nerve trees wind over waiting tongues, brim closer to me. Again, the skin as wish, and two of the breath, hand and hair, or come is. And I will close with a short sonnet. This is one that I'm in the middle of. It's just in process. Touching your skin is a homecoming, love. Feeling your hair is a sacrament. Where could life be holy if not in your care? You know the rhythm I've been dreaming of all of my life. As directions revolve, will, mind, body, heart, spirit, fire, and air, earth, water, matrix, we're here. Everywhere carries us here. The tall palms wave above an afternoon shadow. I find you are clear in your devotion, your steadfast and dear courage, your wisdom, your humor. Your touch opens my pleasure to each goddess rush I am ready for, each magic gift I can stand. Only my boundaries keep me from your hands.
So beautiful, Annie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's absolutely fabulous. I love the way that you deepened and broadened the notion of love. I think that the English language is very limited with the language of love. How many different words? Like in other language, there are many words that reflect love.
Yes, yeah. It's amazing to think about how many there could be and should be in English. That inspires me to want to write poems on that.
It's so true. It's so true. Guadalupe, aren't there other words in Spanish besides just, I mean, we have love and like in English. Those are the two words that have the affinity to, then we adopt other words like the Greek words for love. But in Spanish, are there other ways of speaking of love, other words? I know that there's te amo and, mi amor, right? The way that we speak. So Guadalupe, can you unmute?
Oh, yeah. Sí, sí. Te amo, te quiero, mi amor. Sí.
Te quiero. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that when someone have emotions and feel love for something or someone other, I mean, I think we can find the words. If we have the emotions, we can find the words even when it's difficult. I feel that Annie's poems are full of passion. I mean, it's incredible how she brings all these emotions and passions through words. It's like, as she said, it's music. Poem is, to write poetry, you need to have a good rhythm, to make poetry. It's really a very difficult composition, maybe more difficult than to write a song in some way,
Sometimes maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's hard to imagine. Writing a song is an amazing thing to do. But words, I do think that the music in poetry, maybe in a sense, it's more difficult because the words are so often used to close down music and to make us think too much, too many words. So with poetry, you have to take that and, make it, you have to tame it. You have to tame it. It's not already there. You need to take it and change it to make it into music, which I think is hopefully a kind of work that can be healing. I'm very passionately dedicated now to teaching poets how to write in the rhythms and the music of poetry. So I have a community called Poetry Witch Community. Anybody who's in it knows that I closed it down last week. I thought I couldn't do it anymore. And then I rebirthed it the next day because I thought, no, I have to do this. But I'm doing it in a much more magical way. Like now I'm not just teaching how to do it. I'm teaching how to do it in a magical way, a goddess way. So I do feel it's important because I think it can help to heal words, to bring them back towards song. When I heard your songs, Guadalupe, it's like, it just brought me into your world of music right there. I didn't have to, there wasn't any sense of having to change something or do, it was just so natural. It was just there. Like I could just walk in and be myself and like, here I am in this world where I belong. It was such a gift.
I have been working with some poets. I was musicalizing some text and I think that that's wonderful. And sometimes I had to accommodate, some phrases to change here because the song has this kind of limits about the rhythm, this measure that you need to keep. That I don't have that when I write poetry. When I make poetry, it's different. It's more free. You have more space, a wide universe. But I love this challenge just to take the text and to take care of what the poet wants to say, but at the same time to bring the melody to the text. And I feel that exploding, it's exploding totally.
Yeah. Some poets don't like to have their poems set to music because they think it messes them up. But I love it, and I think it's because I already use the rhythm. So I love to work with composers. I did an opera libretto, and the musical composer kept asking me, "I need another line in this rhythm," and I was in heaven. This is my favorite thing: is to have someone say, "Please use this rhythm." It was just so much fun. Yeah, it's a combination of, but I love the way you use so many different arts. I admire that so much. You have your writing, you have your music, and your painting, all of them. And I also like to dabble in those other things, but you have this gorgeous capacity in all of them. So how does that work? Do you like to do them all at once, or do you go through phases where you do one or the other?
I think I am a kind of social autist. I don't have sometimes, I lost sometimes my connection with the real world. This is something like, I think that if I was born now at these times, the doctor maybe said, this girl have a kind of, I don't know the name in English, but it has to be autism or something like that.
Yeah, on the spectrum.
Yeah, because in some way, I didn't have, I don't find a better way to express deeply myself in the integral person that I am out of art. Words are not enough. Nothing is enough how to express me, myself. And that, maybe poetry is the most richest way to say deep things, and go farther. I think poetry was the language of the past, and it will be the language of the future. We have to speak poetry in the future. We have to speak poetry.
Yeah, we do have to speak it. Exactly. At the recent ASWAM conference, I was saying the exact same thing, that I really feel we need to speak poetry again. I just did a peyote ceremony with a Huichol shaman, and it was all in these incredible rhythms, all, poetry. And I've spent my life building my sense of the rhythms out of nothing, basically, because United States poetry has totally forgotten about rhythm, completely, really. There's only one little bit of one rhythm left, otherwise there isn't any. So I've had to build it from scratch. And then I discovered this shaman who has this incredibly rich tradition, all in the rhythms, that he even had the same sense of the 5 directions that I have and everything. But I feel the same thing. We need to move forward into speaking in poetry in order to tame the power of the mind, which is destroying our planet, and to give words back to music and give music back to words. Because thinking about the gift, I think with art, when we make any kind of art, we give ourselves into the art, and we don't know what we're going to receive back. So it's not an exchange, right? I'm thinking about, I'm using Jen's language here, which is so applicable to so many things. We give our energy and our love into the artwork, like with poetry or with any art, and then we don't know what we're going to receive back. So it's not an exchange between us and it. And I always know when a poem is finished, because it surprises me. A poem isn't finished until it will surprise me and give me something I didn't know or expect to come back. So there's a gift that I know it will keep giving, a gift that I'll never be able to fully receive, and that's how I know it's finished. And so I think when we speak in poetry, our words can partake of that gifting in a way that, when words are, I guess it was the writing, right? Writing down words that took it out of the realm of rhythm and poetry and made the words into just more objects that can be exchanged. And we think that way now, in that prose way. But if we can allow ourselves to hear and receive the rhythms of the world, then we can participate in that gift exchange of art. And just being alive can be an artistic experience when you're in that state of mind.
Yes, I'd like to just add, in some indigenous cultures, their history is chanted. So their epic poems that are literally chanted. There's one tribe in the Philippines, their history is chanted for an entire month. That's how long it actually takes to actually sing this whole chant. And their traditional priestesses, in the way that they receive the information, they have been given a title that indicates that they are very much animistic, but they're also ancestral. So they're the voice, direct voice from divinity that has kept this lineage alive. Many indigenous cultures have this very similar thing, and it includes the rhythm. You have to be able to have that in your body, connected to the earth in the way that songs rise up. So it affects the memory and how we relate to all of our senses, like Guadalupe, in showing her us watching her videos, the whole texture of seeing what she was singing about with the leaves. It's so alive, And then again, to think about little children, little children make up songs and poems. They repeat, and then they're starting to rock. They want to be able to feel that. They know it in their body. It's so alive for them. And both of you have continued a legacy of both giving and receiving from the world this whole, kind of dialogue, a musical, chant and response, call and response effect that you have with your work, both of you. It's beautiful.
So beautiful. I'm so glad to hear that about the chant that takes a month. I mean, I'm aware of this. There's been work on it in every continent, but I've never heard of one that took a month to say that. Is so great. Wow. Yeah. Just, it's a totally.
Oops, you muted. There you go.
Sorry. Yeah, it's such a totally different way of being, isn't it? Like, there's that famous book by Walter Ong, Orality and Literacy, that it's describing it, and children are living in that orality space, right? They're just living in the moment, and yeah, it's a different physical experience, even in your mind and your body. Wouldn't you say, Guadalupe, when you're in that state? And it's a kind of a hypnosis that gets you into that state. So I'm just thinking, to recite that poem for a month, you must, to recite that history, everyone who's hearing it and everyone who's saying it must be in such an altered state by virtue of the rhythms, let alone everything else. It's just.
Well, part of being able to do that actually breaks down the sense of time, because the history and the future are present right now. So it's all alive. And I think that's what poetry does. And that's what music does. For me, it's the rhythm and the tones where the body can actually open to receive at a deeper level words that they come in through the cognitive sense, and then they settle deep, deep, deep at a cellular level into the bones.
Exactly.
So the music helps the whole body open up to deep knowledge that you subversively insert.
Exactly. And it was timeless. Like, so many poets who write in free verse, I hear them say, and that's 90% of poets nowadays or something. I hear them say things like, "Oh, those are early poems. I don't like those anymore. I've moved beyond them." And I've always felt my poems are not like that. Like, my poems live, all of them. Like, I read that one from when I was 16. That is just as real to me as my new poems. Like, because all my poems are like in a landscape that's timeless, and I can go there anytime, and they're just there. And it is timeless. And I think it's maybe because they are in rhythm and meter. So they, it's amazing. And even, but I take courage from the fact that even people from the weird, they call them, the weird countries, Western educated, industrial, rich democracies, we are still respond, just like the children, as you said, we respond immediately to the rhythm without having to be taught or anything. It's like hunger. It's like a natural capacity we have. And I heard one time someone reciting a poem by Longfellow that took 6 hours to recite, and people stayed, the audience was hundreds of people, and they stayed the entire time for 6 hours to hear this poem recited in Portland, Maine, just ordinary people. And I was so shocked by this, because as a poet, you get used to the fact that nobody goes to poetry readings except other poets. Like, nobody wants to go to a poetry reading anymore. But this poetry reading, everybody went, and they were not just other poets, they were plumbers and real estate agents and just ordinary people. And I went up to people and I'd be like, "What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a real estate agent." But they stayed for 6 hours of a poetry reading, and it was Hiawatha. And I think it was just the rhythm, as you say, it was just got everybody into a different state of mind, like the way music can do.
Absolutely. Let's have Jen. Jen, you seem like you're wanting to share, so unmute. There you go. And before she speaks, I want to just say, for those of you who don't know this, Jen does have an album that was produced of her own songs that you can hear. And yes, it's on the website, Gift Economy, gift-economy.com. So you can get that there. So yes, Jen, please, of course.
Briefly, yeah, that is on the website, and but I did it 20 years ago, so it's not very recent. But anyway, the songs are still valid, I think, in some ways. Anyway, what I wanted to say is, we're in such a terrible moment of history and danger now. And the world, the environment needs to be celebrated. And I really think that the poetry and the singing about the world around us, about the leaves, as Guadalupe did, and all even the love poetry itself it's celebrating the world. And it needs to happen because the world is in such a distress. It needs kindness, kind words. It needs to know how beautiful it is, and that we love it. So I appreciate very much all the poetry and singing that can be done about the world around us, and maybe it would be healing too.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jen. Guadalupe, did you have something you wanted to share in this moment?
Yeah, I was thinking and that really poetry, music are so important. They are so important that they are under control, like us women. Why? Why? Because of the strength, because of the freedom that music and poetry, art brings to us. Because of that, it's necessary to control those kind of things. Everything that brings people to get together and feel free and feel in love is dangerous in a society that is putting us separated, individuals, just with our phone, our computer, our house, and the music that can invite people to get together is music that they decided we need to listen. It's not just the free and live creation of the artist and everybody, even ordinary people, they have their sensibility, and life is art. All of us, even in the kitchen, even building a house, even we need to have this sensibility. We are artists. And of course, when we make poetry or when we make music, we are reconnected with original things of our cultures, as Leticia says, first with our childhood, the strength and the mystery of the magic of our childhood. And at the same time, our ancestors, and all the strength, that magic that is fantastic. I don't believe that the most important thing is in science. Magic is the biggest thing, and it's under control. And especially it's what I see, what's happening with poetry is one of the art expression that became under control. It's very interesting. When I decided to write, because I was writing always songs, and people said to me, no, your songs are poems too. But when I went to see poetry, and I discovered that was another world, and how we have to take care. We women need to keep that strength, create always. We need to keep that strength and to share that strength. I'm always afraid with the idea that there is a lot of people listening to this. No, there is a lot of people putting attention to this and listening. What there are spaces where they can connect with this. And I always think that the most important thing is just to create spaces. Space, is that a good word? Spaces where we can go and share this. We need to get in contact with people to do this. And I see my experiences that I can see people who you thought that they couldn't understand it, they get in contact immediately. And that's what we have to do. Poetry, here in Costa Rica, there is a very interesting movement of women playing in cafes, in houses, in any activity they go, they get together and they go to make poetry. And it's interesting. People is sitting there and listening. Of course, the ancient wisdom is totally poetry. You know, in the beginning was the sea, and the sea was the mother. And so she was a river, creek, a lagoon. And so she was everywhere. That's just nothing, simple words, but that's magic. It's incredible big. You feel that how big is the world? So that's what I wanted to say.
That's so absolutely beautiful. And I want to just share something. There are so many beautiful comments that have been put into the chat. So I hope everyone will take a moment to read them. But I wanted to share something Patricia White's just put in. She says, as a grandmother, the words of my mother come to me often. Giving is receiving. That is so profound. What a maternal gift economy statement that is.
Oh,
That's totally,
wow.
that should be on our, that should be a button, you know, that should be our poster. Giving is receiving. That is so beautiful. That is beautiful. And Annie, please, yes.
Oh, so beautiful. I was going to say, so beautiful. Where I am in Mexico now, I was saying what Guadalupe was saying about the songs that the person I'm staying with, who's been here for about 30 years, but came from the US. So she was very sensitive to the destruction of the culture in the village in the way that maybe the people who lived here weren't as aware of what was going to happen. But she told me that only about 10 years ago in this village here on the coast of Mexico, it used to be that there were dirt roads everywhere, and the women made all the decisions in a kind of loose way, the decision would sort of travel through groups of women around the village, who should be in the village, who shouldn't, what things should happen. The women were kind of keeping things safe. And then she said everything changed when the music changed, when the songs came in, commercial music came in, and everything changed because the children no longer learned the songs of the elders, and the children stopped knowing the traditions, the children stopped respecting the parents, and instead they were singing songs that were commercial. And then she used to teach the little children in the library, and the children they do sing-alongs, and the children always sang. And then all of a sudden, within a couple of years, the children started saying, oh, I don't know how to sing. And they stopped singing because only the professional singers can sing. So this power was taken away from them. And then other things started to fall, and it was not. It's different now, but I think it's so beautiful what you were saying, Guadalupe, that the women in Costa Rica are doing now to share this music and bring it back into people's hearts and people's voices, like to give us our power back. So much of it is our songs, our poetry, the rhythm of our words, which can turn our interactions with each other and our culture into a gift that can then be kept and passed along, like with those oral poems that are just passed along. When you have the rhythm, you have the gift of timelessness in the moment, and you also have the gift of timelessness being passed along. So you have the identity of the culture. No wonder it's a threat.
Yes, that's so beautiful, Annie. I think it's important to note that, we have so few places that, especially with COVID, where we're, feeling now coming out to engage and physically be with one another. And I was just wanting to check in with you, Annie. You mentioned ASWIM. Will you be there in Syracuse?
Yes, I will be there. I will be there. I will be there. I am so excited to be there. And I will be teaching, I believe, I'm offering, I believe it's going to happen, a workshop on writing the rhythms of water, or it really could be speaking the rhythms of water as well, but part of my effort to bring these rhythms back to people. Yes, definitely. And
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to mention because Guadalupe is also going to be there.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Guadalupe is going to be at ASWIM along with Maria Suarez from both coming up from Costa Rica and several of us from our network. And we are planning to actually get together possibly on Sunday to gather as women to do more of what Guadalupe is talking about.
Oh,
Hopefully
okay.
with
Oh.
you, just so that we can be together. And I'll make sure for all of you who are listening now and later, I'll put a link in the chat so that you can find out how to register. And please do join us. It's going to be quite very exciting.
Yeah,
Yay.
and that
Yeah.
day that we'll, and that extra day is going to be a strategizing day. So we're going to be strategizing about what to do, and that in general, in future, in the public. So
Perfect. That sounds not to miss. That's so wonderful. Wow. Yeah, not to miss.
Yes, Guadalupe, would you like to say something about what you're going to be contributing that day? Because Annie did share what she was going to be talking about. She mentioned about water, so.
Well, that day when we have to invent what to do?
No.
Oh,
What you're going to be presenting at the ASWIM about water, isn't it?
yeah.
With Maria.
That's why my speech, or what I'm going to do, is just to talk about the sacred feminine in waters in Abya Yala. Abya Yala is the first name that we have heard that indigenous people gave to the Americas. It's the most ancient name to call our continent. So and the name is the sacred of the sacred feminine in the waters of Abya Yala. That's what I will do. I love that theme. Don't say nothing because I begin to talk about that. So I love that a lot. I love that. And I think it's good. It's good to have that opportunity to share these mind and reflections and experiences that I have had in our continent with the
Yes, it's so wonderful. I think this is also a point where I think it's really important. I do know at the conference, there's going to be a group of Indigenous women, elders coming down from Canada who are water tenders there. So there'll be a panel of them. And there's such a different experience. I'm blessing all the ways in which we're allowing the Indigenous people to bring forward their own words, like Guadalupe is sharing with us, the very first, identity that the people from her area used to call the Americas, which we would not have known because, of course, everything that we know in English was written by white men who just used the words that they labeled everything with. So I just want to thank you all and share one comment that I just noticed. Also, Joan Marler is saying, oh yes, so much beauty, wisdom, and ancient knowledge. Thank you for reminding us of the poetry and beauty and love that lives in our hearts, uniting us with the living earth. Blessings all around.
Wow. Wow, thank you. It's wonderful. I have her books, John Marley's books about Maria Gimbutas. And I met her. I don't know if she remember. I went to visit Sebastopol where she was, and I got her book, and she signed my book, and I was so proud and happy. And I have to say that in some way, Maria Gimbutas was the door. She opened the door to me to dare to go to listen and read and look for our goddesses in the Americas.
Wow.
one thing about music and singing and poetry is that it's actually really is a gift, because what you want is for the other person to take it. You know, you want the other person that hears it to sing it or to speak it themselves. And so it just passes along. And even when it's on the radio or wherever it might be, it's still free to the person that's listening. So it is, I don't know, it's a wonderful gift, a communicative gift that goes around. Yeah.
That is so true.
Yes.
Do we have questions from the audience?
Yeah. Are there any other questions I can, that we can? Present.
I read something, Leticia, sorry. Oh,
That's okay. Go ahead.
I read something about asking to me that what was my inspiration, the most important of my most important or special songs that I love. I want just to answer that I have really a hard time choosing a favorite song. Songs are ours and we are of the songs, but I am inspired by everyday life, by those situations that concern or interest me, such as the state of destruction in which our main house is, our planet, the waters, and the place of us women in the midst of all of this craziness. You know, I seek the recovery of our collective strength, our sacred relationship with life, and I seek to be loved as I am. That's what I wanted to answer, because you know, music, one of the most important things when I make a song is just to be consciousness about what I want to say, or about I'm going to talk. As Annie was talking before about this special moment where you feel the connection with poetry, that is a magic moment. It's the same with music. Sometimes I said, oh, I wrote that song. How I came here to this song. And it's because I always think that there are special forces, you know, all your genetic code is coming to you, illuminating the experiences of your life and remembering you that you know about that. You don't remember, but you know what is that. And it's something that I take advantage always when I want to write a song. And I know immediately if this is a good song or no, if I really am expressing myself really deeply or no. Or if I'm trying to be just intellectual, just to write something that the rest of the people will consider important or interesting. And that's something that I have learned, not because of, you know, studying music or so, it's just that it comes from the times, from the ancient times. And that's that I value of women making arts. When we are making arts, you know, we are just in the middle of magic and words that even we don't know exactly where they come from, but just those memories, very powerful memories. And I honor that a lot.
I love that. That is so beautiful. I didn't want to, was there anything else you were going to say? I don't want to interrupt you. Guadalupe.
Maria, are you complete?
Oh, no, it's okay for me. It's okay.
Because that reminds me of a comment. I just saw the comment here in the chat from Sarah Poet, who says, I'm inspired by how Guadalupe and Annie have made love a personal choice, a way of being, a passion. I've struggled with the idea of exchanges and patriarchy, how when I've given love, it hasn't been honored. So to give wasn't enough for me. I want to receive more of it too. I found myself wanting to ensure receiving. I'm here in the space of learning about the gift to open beyond the limitations of exchange. And it got me thinking before, there was a quote from someone who said, to give is to receive. Where was that from? I think someone quoted that. Was it Leticia or Jen? Said to give is to receive?
Yeah.
No, it was actually a woman. Let me see if I can find it again.
Oh,
She
in the
said her
chat.
grandmother Those are words of her grandmother that was given to her.
Patricia White posted that
Thank you.
comment.
So, and I was thinking that the other part of that is that to receive is to give. And it's very easy to forget that. And I for some reason, I guess I'm writing a book about love or something like that, about heterosexual love. The working title is How to Have a Husband. And, because I discovered that women in the United States seem to have lost some of the knowledge about heterosexual connection that I find the women in Mexico even maybe still have more awareness of how to kind of be in power, be centered in your relationship with a man. And I don't see that very much in the United States. And I think it seems a lot of women make the mistake of thinking that they need to give to the man. And in my experience, it's not very helpful to try to give to a man, because it's never enough and he doesn't ever seem to appreciate it anyway. So it seems like it's easier to just receive and to remember that receiving is a gift. And I think when women make art, we also are learning to receive. As you were saying, Guadalupe, when women make art, it's a sacred process. And maybe that also helps to remind us and to teach us how to receive. And also when women are together, so important for women to be together and gather together and feel that wonderful constant gifting that women can do together. And when we do that, I think we feel more worthy of receiving if we are in a connection with a man that might otherwise have been difficult. It reminds us how to receive and how to allow ourselves to be at the center. And, matricentric, matricultural, matristic, it's all about women being at the center. And if we are not comfortable receiving, we will never be at the center.
Yes. I think we've had some lovely discussions about giving and receiving, but the thing that is present in my mind is that receiving is an action. It's not passive. You have to be ready, open. It's a very engaged process. And with that, it's a full expression. It creates a connection. It's that Jen says that turn taking. It's kind of like that, that it really isn't this passive notion of receiving, which is the patriarchal view of what that is. There's a potency of being open to and allowing only that which is for the good of you. And then it's for the good of all. It's being able to recognize that part. And I wanted to, Jen, did you want to say something, please?
I just really quickly wanted to say that you can't give a gift unless somebody receives it. That it's not really a gift unless somebody can receive it. So the receiver is really important.
That's so true. Lori, Amy addressed this to Annie, but I think it's to both of you really. But right after Annie spoke, she said, "Thank you so much for seamlessly weaving in, but with such honesty and strength, proudly grounded in vulnerability, the aspects of childhood sexual abuse." And oh goodness, now I've lost the piece. Let me see if I can find. That's a terrible thing with the chat. You can tell I'm not that facile here with my because there were more words here.
I see it.
Do you see it?
The childhood sexual abuse on women's sexuality. Brava. So much gratitude. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
I also, speaking of things like that, when things disappear, I've been trying to practice receiving coincidences and synchronicities. And when something supposedly goes wrong, but actually it's right if you receive it as a gift. And I even asked the shaman that I was working with at the peyote ceremony. It's an interesting, when you think about political action, for example, how important it is to claim our power. And and stand up for what we know is right, and make changes and bring women together and do what we need to do to change the world. And how does that connect with the idea of receiving the way life happens as a gift? You know, to be open to life the way it happens. If there's an accident or a mistake, to, you know, I think many of us tend to think, well, on some level, it's for the best. And that is a kind of a receiving. But at the same time, you don't want to give up your, you know, your anger and your need to act. So there are ways to receive that as well, I guess, to receive your impulse to action as a gift and let that come through you. It's a wonderful dance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, Guadalupe.
Yeah, someone there, I think Sarah Poet said that when she gives, she's expecting to receive something. I mean, she doesn't feel good just to give, or she has been frustrated to see that maybe someone is not honoring what she gave. And I understand that totally. What has happened for me, I think I have a kind of the little piece of wood in the middle of the storm in the sea. I have it that, and that is just to sing or just to make music or make my arts. I mean, I don't have any other thing that is most important, and any other thing gave to me a lot like this. Nobody, no one, nothing. I discovered making this that I have a terrible, deep necessity to be loved. And what I do when I make my work is to tell that to people. And I said to them, I'm here singing for you, but really, I really need you to love me when I do this. Because I do this, because this is what make me free, liberate me of pain, or of help me to get better. And I think when you express that, and when you make this, the music or the arts come to you as a big gift, it's a free gift. Even when you go to the university, but no, it's a free gift. So sorry, when you have this sensitivity, this is free. This is a gift. Yeah. And this is strong and comes to you like it's calling you, And if you deny this, you can get sick. You can die. You can really have a very bitter life. I can tell that from my own experience. So making this gift is a very big love. I mean, this is really love. But if I was thinking before that I was doing this and people came to see me because I was wonderful, I knew how to do that. No, forget it. You don't know anything. Even I'm not a fantastic singer. There are better singers than me with a better techniques, resources, better than me. The only thing that I have when I do my work, even painting, I never went to school to learn how to paint. The only thing I have is just that I discovered that arts is my little piece of wood in the storm. And after it became a little boat, and now I think it's a big ship that I have to be in the middle of the sea, even the storms, even so. And especially, I feel that that's something that what I see in another women making arts, I can feel that. And we have to honor that. We have to honor this gift. Because when we share that gift deeply from ourselves as people said to you, thank you, because you are sharing your poetry and you yourself experience. That's what people really appreciate, that you are there naked, you yourself, with any other thing that this language, this special language that people calls art, you know? So love, oh my gosh, everything is subordinated in my life if it's not related with the arts that I do. That's the most important. That is the motor that is moving me. And I know that's my strength. All the knowledge, all the understandings of life come to me through that. And I know that that's wisdom. And I know that I receive that from my genetic code, from the strong forces of nature. And I know that that's real. That's real. I feel it. I appreciate it. And I want just to share that with the others. And I see that when people feel what I feel, they are connected with me and I am connected with them. There is no any or another revolution than accept that that's a gift, and you have to honor the gifts in life. You have to honor that because that came free to you, came free.
Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, so true. And when you really open yourself to your art also, I think sometimes it does take multiple forms, like expression. And when art is commodified, like in the mainstream culture, it's commodified. And so you can only be a musician or a poet or a healer or a priestess, and you're only supposed to be one of those things. And yet, as we develop ourselves, I mean, I clearly see this in you, Guadalupe, of course, and I see it in myself as well. All the time I thought I was crazy because I'm a poet, I'm also a critic, I'm also a teacher, I'm also a witch. Like I love healing and plants, and I love, and I do dance and performance and all, and so I've struggled and struggled. How could I do all these things? And I see other people out there now who are, I see other women that I recognize, like Monica Modi, for example, who's a healer and a poet and a dancer. And, you know, it's like, as we claim our full strength, we often discover that we have many aspects. I have this 5 directions tattooed on my arm. It's 5 different colors, and each one represents a part of my life and a part of myself. So, you know, I have the poet and the thinker and who's a sort of a philosopher, I guess, and then the healer, and then the leader of the community or teacher, and the performer, all those things. And it connects in my mind. I finally figured it out, how to make sense of my crazy, chaotic life, which didn't fit into the usual categories. And that's why I developed this idea of 5 directions. I have the will, the mind, the heart, the body, and the spirit, and all of them together make me. And that's the only way I could finally rest at night, because I wasn't constantly wondering, what am I? Who am I? And then when I discovered more about Huichol culture through the shaman that I was connected with, he's talking about the same exact thing. And I saw he had also 5 capacities, you know, very similar. He was doing the healing, he was doing the performing, he was doing the teaching, he was doing the poetry, he was doing all of it. And, you know, it's, I think it's important to model that in our culture. And there are so few poets in the United States. Robert Bly may be one of them, Maya Angelou maybe another, who you can see have developed the different aspects of themselves. But so often we're taught not to do that. And in fact, it could make us more comfortable and more generous in all of them if we develop each of them.
Thank you, Annie. I just want to share a comment that Mary Claire entered into the chat. For it is giving that we receive is a central line in the peace prayer of Francis of Assisi. also known as the Canticle to Creatures, which reads like a love song. I find it delicious to ponder this 13th century partnership of Francis and Clare of Assisi, who challenged the misogynistic and capitalistic excesses of the Catholic Church, trying to call us back to the maternal gift economy. Thanks, Mary Claire. That's beautiful.
So that's who the woman's grandmother was quoting. She was quoting St. Francis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's very impressive to listen to you all, how well you've lived your lives and your talents, and how present you are with those and able to communicate them and give them to give all of these wonderful products of passion and poetry and music and rhythm to everybody. I mean, it's fabulous to have that ability and to be able to receive, like we can receive all of your gifts. So thank you so much. It's really incredible to hear such talented women, I don't know, genius women.
Oh, so beautiful. Charlene Spretnick says that she missed the first hour, but Charlene, we're going to be putting up the recording of this video so you can watch the first. You won't have to miss it. It will probably be up sometime this weekend or by Monday for sure. And she says, but this is really great. Thank you deeply for your beautiful, wise women. You are exactly what I needed today and in this life. Thank you so much, Charlene, for joining us again. And I'm looking at the time. It's been so wonderful for us to be together. And I wanted to make sure that we had time for Guadalupe to sing us out. And Annie, I wonder if there was any last words that you would want to share with us. And I want to remind people that the chat will be up with the recording at our website, maternalgifteconomymovement.org. So
I have a little poem that is about love for the earth, called Earth Day. And I have a new book going to be coming out in India, and this will be the title poem. Earth Day. All we want is to find the love in the faces of the people we love. All we need is to find the dark in the nighttime sky, to lie down to sleep in the darkness where stars and moon keep vigil in the silence of a sleeping earth. All we require is to wake to sunlight in the morning, to simple sky, to breathe aloud as the sky is breathing, to drink the water of the earth. All we need is to touch the planet and find it clean where we were born, where our ancestors breathed and planted, where we live with the plants and birds. All we need is to live with the memory of a future we want to imagine. All we want is to find the love in the face of the planet we love.
thank you so much, Annie. Absolutely. What a perfect poem for this time. Perfect. I want to thank our speakers, Annie Finch and Guadalupe Urbina, our tech support, Diane and Elena, and Genevieve and the International Feminists for the Gift Economy Network, and each of you for joining us in our third season. It's amazing that we now have 41 salons that you can go back and review. I want to invite you to come back on March the 4th when we're going to have a very special event with Heidi Gutner-Abendroth and the English translation of her latest book, Matriarchal Societies of the Past and the Rise of Patriarchy. this year, we're actually bringing in a few more books. We have women in our network whose books have actually come out this year. So we're looking forward to have Arella with her book. And we know for sure, confirmed a date on the 15th of July with Karina Kylo and Barbara Alice Mann with their book on bear stories. And we're excited about that. Our next salon is going to be March the 11th, number 42. It will be a special celebration with the international, focusing on International Women's Day with Jen and many of the foremothers who actually attended those global gatherings like the Nairobi gathering and the peace tent. So we'll hear more about that. The women who went to Beijing, FIRE, which was a women's international radio network in the South. And of course, Frida, who will be bringing Wings, which was International Women's Radio Network, and the voices of women, why radio was so important at that time, because it brought voices of women from all over the world so that we could hear this rising tide and the excitement that was happening for women to be forging forward. So we hope you'll come back. I want to just remind everyone that our recording is going to be up, and we've put our website up, the maternalgifteconomymovement.org. We do have a mailing list that we only use very sparingly, just to let you know when events are going to be happening. And that is maternal. You can sign up or give us questions or comments at maternalgifteconomy@gmail.com. And with that, Guadalupe, do you have a song that you'd like to sing out? And I'll just come back on right after Guadalupe and say our formal goodbye. But Guadalupe, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I go to share a song that comes from the indigenous territory from the South Costa Rica, where I live now. I asked permission to the grandmothers who are teaching and singing this song. And this is a beautiful song that in Bribri language entail that grandmother says to the grandchild, please sleep, little one, sleep, because I have to bring food to your mother. She's working on the fields, because that's our life, that's our blood. Sleep well, and the spirits and the elves will come to take care of you. So, and that is like, Bebera kapowara, mi wara mikara kanerabaro, eta se atara, se showera, that's kenehemika, karatan warasipa, etara ye paradot kenera, kanera bare warahanye, eta ediwa ye padeka, semitkera itoki, inyera brokianaño wara. Pepera kapowara, mi wara mikera kanera bro, eta se atara, se showera, that's kene emika, karatan warasipa, taraye paradot kenera, kanera bore borahani, eta edinuaye pareka, semitkera itoki, inyera mi kwanaño wara pepera pepera.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Guadalupe. And thank you all for being with us. It has been so wonderful. We hope to see you Saturday, March 4th for High Day and March 11th for our Salon number 42. So everyone, please stay safe, be well, be kind to one another. And thank you especially for all the ways in which you share your gifts of love for each other and for those in need, especially our planet, our Mother Earth. Peace, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.